Yeah, a lot of people make the mistake. They think, okay, I've paid all this money to a developer. I've got this amazingly beautiful website that represents me right now. And then they just leave it and forget about it, or just presume someone's doing stuff to it, updating it.
In this week's episode, I interview Kelly Sparks from Opal and Onyx. Kelly is a web developer and also a WordPress expert. And in the interview, she shares lots of hints and tips on how to spring clean your website. She not only looks at the outside, so the front end, but also the back end, so what goes on behind your website too. And there's so much advice that she shares, which I'm sure will really help you, no matter whether you have a WordPress website or have another type of website. So I hope you enjoy our chat. A very warm welcome back to the My Small Business and Me podcast, Kelly.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me back again, Rona.
It's the last 12 months has gone so quickly, but when I checked my stats of the most popular podcasts, you were in the top 3.
Oh, it's very exciting to hear.
Yeah, and I just look at my notes here, and the actual title of the podcast we had back then was How to Create an Effective Website for Your Small Business. So obviously it resonated with a lot of people, and that's why I've invited you back today. We're going to talk about spring cleaning though, aren't we?
Yep, yep. So that time of year, isn't it? Everyone's spring cleaning their houses. And I just thought that it'd be a great idea to talk about how you can spring clean your website.
Yeah, and I think it's really important for people to, as you said, and I'll put a link to the interview from last year below, you said that your website is an ever evolving place on the internet, didn't you?
Definitely. Yeah. A lot of people make the mistake. They think, okay, I've paid all this money to a developer. I've got this amazingly beautiful website that represents me right now. And then they just leave it and forget about it, or just presume someone's doing stuff to it, updating it. I had a client the other week and I logged in, and because we'd logged in, the person that was supposed to be updating her website suddenly dived on and started updating it. So, but she didn't have a clue that was happening, because she wasn't aware of how to look and what she should be doing and what should be happening to her website on a regular basis.
Yeah. So you are a WordPress expert. Is the whole of our interview going to be WordPress specific?
No, not at all. So a lot of this, I'm also like conversion specialist, and in doing websites in general, I look at the usability of them and how to increase your conversions. So the first half is basically about the front end of your website, so the bit that the end user sees. So there's all the tips in there anyone can take away and implement on their own website.
Okay, great. Well, let's get started. So we're going to start off with the outside of your website. So what people see when they go to your website on their computer or their tablet or their mobile. So what are your tips, please, Kelly?
Okay, so the first thing to do is every now and again just have a look at your website. So take this like spring clean as a chance to just look at it and be, does it still represent you? Is it in the brand? Is it still your brand? Because I know that, like, especially with Instagram and things where people are evolving so fast on Instagram, for example, and especially visual businesses, and putting all their time into that, and they've come up with this amazing brand and it all looks fabulous. But then if someone clicks on that and then heads back to your website, they're going to be like, oh, it was all like beautiful muted colors and suddenly it's bright colors on your website. You want your website to be a reflection of your business everywhere else. So you want it to be totally cohesive, and obviously to attract your ideal customer, it needs to be like that. And does it look outdated? So
Mm.
even just like having a website for a year or 2 years, there are things that just make it look a little bit outdated. And you'll spot them, like, for example, big sliders, they're quite old fashioned now. And
Can you
other things.
explain what they are, Kelly?
Okay, so when you go to like a home page and
Mm.
there are occasions where they are useful. But if you go to someone's homepage and the first thing you see is a big image that's sliding, So you get
Oh, so
you see
rotating.
a carousel. Yep. So you
Yeah.
see the first image, and then it slips to you're thinking, oh, I like the idea of that spring bulb collection, and then it's gone. And next it's like Mother's Day, and you're like, where's that? Where's spring bulb collection gone? So it's about like being focused with your message, like. A slide or a carousel allowed you to have 10 messages first thing. It's like bombarding the user, whereas now it's good just to think, right, okay, so yes, I do need to sell my spring bulb collection, I do need to look at the Mother's Day feature coming up, but have it so that do it per week. I think, right, this week I'm going to concentrate on that rather than
Ah.
trying to shove everything in at once. So yeah, and there's other things like fonts, spacing. Nowadays websites have got like nice space around them. Does yours look all scrunched up? Do your fonts work together? All these things, because when you first create a website, it looks great. You think it looks great. Obviously, you set it live, you must be happy with it. But then moving forward, things do evolve, trends change. So if someone comes to your website and it looks outdated or dirty in the spring clean, like analogy, then they're gonna go away. They want it to be fresh, they want it to be clean, and then they're going to trust you more.
So how often do you think trends change? How often do you think people should make a note to just check their website? Every spring or
Yeah, I
every...
think spring is a great time because you're doing it in your house, you're cleaning curtains, doing all this stuff, every year. And then you like with your website, just if you put it in your diary for once a year and just really look at it, like, what is this working? Is it doing what I want it to do? Like, what is the point of this website? And if 2 years ago the point was to sell bulbs, but now you're focusing on cut flowers, is it all about bulbs? Change the wording. It's just things like that. It's just trying to get your website to reflect exactly what you're doing at any time. I mean, ideally, you do it every 3 months, and ask yourself if your focus is like, I want to get more signups to my website. Where is your sign up form? Is it shoved right at the bottom of the contact page? Maybe you could put it in more places and things like that. Okay, and the next tip, sort of along the same veins, is to look at your images that you're using. So imagery is so important on your website, or video. If you can add a video, even better. So that's a trend. Videos. Everyone loves video these days. So it's great if there's a video of you on there. So not just a photo. I know that puts more pressure on people, but even a video of, say, your workspace, or you don't have to be in it, but just having that the video, the moving image, it's like it's just a bit more dynamic, and again, it's very current. But outdated images, bad stock images, you put your website out there, you think, oh, those will do for now. If you did that last year, this spring is the time to think, okay, now I'm going to book in a brand photographer, or I'm going to invest in some new imagery for your website.
Yeah, that's really, really, when you are getting your website out, sometimes it can be such a rush. You're just like, okay, well, I'll just go with this, and yeah, it's really good to revisit. And if you yourself have had a new branding shoot, but you haven't had a chance to put your images up, then now is a good time.
Yeah, definitely schedule in that time, every year to think, right, okay, I'm going to do a little catch up. I've got this new imagery for these products. I've got this, I've got that, and just give it an overhaul. So the other thing, which is a little bit techy, but is super important at the moment, well, always been, but very important now, is that your website is secure. So, when you go to a website and you see the URL at the top, and then you've got a little padlock next to that. So if you don't have a padlock next to that, so I did deal with someone the other day who their website wasn't secure. And when I went to it, I couldn't even access it. It was literally like, this site is insecure, proceed with caution. So you definitely don't want that. And sometimes it might be part secure, but not fully secure. And then you'll get another message. So when you're logged in, the key, the lock doesn't look quite right, and it might have a cross through it. And you might get a message say it's not secure, which again is not good. So you need to make sure that it's up to date, because the certificates can expire.
So how do you say you go to your website later today and you check and you haven't got a padlock there, what do you need to do?
Okay, so you would need to speak to your hosting provider about that. and ask them to help you to get it secured. Yeah, or your
Okay.
developers. I mean, it is something that you can do, but yeah, it's a bit out of scope for this
Yeah.
podcast.
So does a secure website have the HTTPS
Yes,
URL? Okay.
it
So if
does.
you've got S after it, then that's good.
You're fine, yeah.
Okay.
But like I say, you could have the S, but then it could not be fully secured. So
Okay.
just make sure you've got the padlock and you've got the S, and then you're good to go.
So if you don't have a secure website, what scenarios could happen apart from people not being able to view it?
Yeah, not being able to view it, and you're going to get penalized by search engines because they're
Oh,
not going
wow.
to want to send traffic to you because it's not secure. Why would they? You know, at the end of the day, search engines are always trying to protect their their reputation. You know, if you every time you went to Google, you got fired off to some dodgy website, you would stop using Google. So they are very protective over that. So yeah, having a secure website is a real no-no.
Right.
And also it sends a message to your clients or the visitors that you are concerned for them, because that padlock means that every bit of data I enter into your website, so if I go on and send you an email or sign up to your newsletter, my data is, if that's not, padlock's not there, my data is at risk. So
Okay.
yeah, so it would make me think, oh, I'm not buying anything from them, definitely not, except, you know, put my credit card details, but also I'm not going to give them my email address because I don't want it on
Yeah.
somewhere it shouldn't be.
No. Good. Okay.
Another thing that you need to do is make sure that all your forms work. Sounds simple, but again, the amount of websites that I take on, and their forms aren't even work. They're like, no one ever contacts me through that form. I'm like, yes, it's not working. So yeah, just send yourself a message. Is it working? You should probably put that in your diary. You know, it takes 5 minutes. Just pop that in your diary once a month or something. Send yourself
Yeah.
a message. Sign up to your new check. You can sign up to your newsletter, and check any other forms that you might have on your website, and any downloads, anything that's interaction with the user. Just make sure everything's working. Go page to page. Does everything work on this page? Does everything still look okay? Because even if you haven't changed anything, updates do happen in the back end, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. And they can change the way your website looks. We had this with you, Rona, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah, we
Your
did.
blog titles went white
Yes. Which
on a
isn't very
white
good.
background, which wasn't good. But it's easily fixed. But you know, if you weren't looking at your website, you might have not have noticed that. And so a
Mm.
visitor would just be like, why is there no, what's this blog post about? You know, where's there no title? But they
Yeah.
might not get in touch with you. Or it might have
No.
been like that 6 months before someone gets in touch with you. So
And I also had a problem where I did something with my Instagram and Facebook account, and it meant that the Instagram widget on my website stopped updating.
yeah.
And it was you that contacted me and went, Rona, do you realise it's not updating? So, yeah, I think it's also really important that people click on all their social media icons, because
Yes.
so often I'll go to a website and the social media icon, for example, to Instagram, doesn't click through to their profile because they might have changed their Instagram.
Yeah. Or like an old profile, even worse, you know, some profile that they had when they first started out that they haven't updated for 2 years, and they're losing all that traffic to their
Mm,
Instagram account. So
yeah.
and the last thing is to check that you're using clear calls to action. So similar to what I was saying at the beginning, you know, make sure your website is still doing what you want it to do for you. But just check, like if you're asking someone to sign up, don't have a button that says submit. You know, it's like, oh, that's a bit boring. You know, like, do you want WordPress tips? Yes, I'm in, you know, or something like
Mm,
that. Or help me improve my business, or you know, that you don't have to have one word on your button. Obviously there's cases where you might have a tiny space for your button and it has to have one word, but don't make it submit. You know, make it something relevant and make them want to click it. And the
okay.
same like throughout your website, you know, the wording that you're using, you know, are you being convincing enough? Are you explaining why they should click this button? You know, um, and it's just all about making your website work for your business and your needs at this time, not when it was developed 2 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. It's as you said at the very beginning, everything is changing so quickly with technology. And if you started using TikTok as well, you might want to add another icon for TikTok, for example.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, just make sure that everything that you're currently doing is represented on your website. Or
Mm.
if you started TikTok, say you like it's like a main thing of your business, say you're like a TikTok educator, then maybe you want like something on your homepage. Maybe you start off as Instagram and now you're TikTok. So
Mm.
maybe your homepage is all geared towards Instagram and you need to just tweak the messaging to make it relevant to what you're doing right now.
It's making me think about my website now.
Well, that's
So,
good. That's what I'm here for.
so that's what you call the front end, which is what I call the appearance or the outside. Are you ready now to move on to the back end?
Yes, definitely. So, obviously, I am mainly I do WordPress. That is the key focus of my business. But any website that you've got, some of these tips will be relevant, but there's some which are specifically for WordPress users. So the first thing relevant to everyone is backing up. So you need to make sure your website is backed up. I mean, you could have the best hosting in the world, best security, and then something can happen. You can do something, you could install something, or an update could do something to your website. So you need to make sure you always got a backup, and that should be your database and your front end. So even like Squarespace, Wix, anything like that, you should make sure that you've got a backup of your website. And it's worth chatting to your host. So for example, my hosting clients, I back them up daily on the host, but then I also I'll do like a few times a day. So for example, if you've got high transaction websites, say you're selling a lot of things, you want to be backing up that data because you don't want to lose. Say you had to restore to yesterday and you've done a big launch today and you've sold 30, 100 or whatever courses, and then all that data's gone. You need to make sure that you're backing up properly, regardless of platform. So yeah, database. So if you've got an option on there for files and database, you need to do both of those. And you should be able to easily do that within your control panel. So like I'm not sure how to do it exactly in Squarespace, but I know you can. And other providers, or if you've got a WordPress website and you've got a host, then you could ask them to make sure they're doing the backups, or look in your control panel in your hosting. And there's always a
Yeah.
section that's just called backups. Click on it, make it sure it's set up to run automatically. Once you've done it once, you don't have to worry about it. But again, maybe once maybe once a month, or once a quarter, just check your backups are actually backing up. Make sure
Mm.
it's not stopped. Um,
Before I met you, I was paranoid about the back end completely. I didn't honestly. I'm really happy with the front end and how it looks, but the back end just freaked me out. And that's why I'm so happy you look after everything now for me.
oh, thank you. But
Seriously, I was so paranoid that if I ever added a widget or if I did anything that I would break my website. And yeah, you know, it's just having that reassurance. And I always think you should delegate things that you don't either enjoy or have the knowledge about. And I don't have either of those when it comes to the back end.
oh no, that's it's lovely to hear. So sorry to hear that you were nervous about doing it, but
Oh,
it's great to
completely.
hear you feel great now about it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the thing about backups. If you've done a backup, you're technically safe because you can roll it back.
So
Um,
you could add a widget and it might not work, and then you could go back to your backup.
Exactly. So it's worth just getting familiar with how your backups work, so that you can do that, so that
Mm.
okay, so if you're going to do a lot of, say, you're just going to do your spring clean, then check your backups are working. You might want to do one right before you start. So, if your host is backing you up in the evening and you're doing it first thing in the morning, or even like later on in the afternoon where you've done a load of work, you've got a load of orders in, maybe just do a quick backup before you start doing any changes.
Yeah.
And then you're safe. I think it's like your little safety net. It's
Mm.
like you're me, Rona. Okay, and the next thing to do, again, on any platform is remove anything you're not using. So if you were, say you did have an Instagram feed on your website and you don't want that on there anymore, just get rid of that. So if it's on WordPress and it was a plugin, get rid of the plugin. Don't leave things around that you're not using, because everything could cause issues. So the simpler you make your website, the better. So remove anything you're not using. And if you are on WordPress, you need to be updating your website.
The WordPress software itself.
Yep. So you need to, so if you're on WordPress, there's four things you need to update. The first is the actual WordPress software. So if you were doing an update, you would back up first. Then you should update WordPress first if WordPress is available. Then you should update any themes if you're on WordPress, the themes next, and then do your plugins one at a time. So if anything happens, if you do things one at a time, because within WordPress, it's easy to just click select all and to run. But then if something happens, you won't know what caused the problem.
Which plugin caused the problem?
Exactly, yeah. Or so you can, so then say, for example, it was the Instagram widget that you're not using anymore, you could have just delete that widget and then plugin, sorry, and then you're back to it's all working, it's not a problem. But also you need to just check that everything is current and up to date, because obviously anything that's out of date could be a vulnerability for your website, so people could get in there. Now, I'm not trying to scare people about WordPress, because I love WordPress, and the fact that you've got to update it yourself means that you're totally in control of your website. And you could say, for example, if, like we did this with you, Ronan, recently, you're in the middle of a launch, I didn't update your WooCommerce plugin, which is what controls your orders, because I thought I don't want to mess up the orders right now. Even I have those thoughts, but I just waited till after the launch. So, maybe don't do your spring clean right now if you're going to do a launch tomorrow.
Kelly, can you explain, because I'm really confused, the difference, please, between a plugin and a widget?
Okay, so widgets are actually getting phased out of WordPress, but you might see them in other ones. But widgets are generally like sections that you can drag onto your website, whereas a plugin might add a widget. That sounds really complicated, doesn't it? So a plugin is like a section, a chunk of code that enables your website to have more functionality. Okay. So like, say, for example, you have just a plain WordPress website and you want to add a shop. So you would use a plugin called WooCommerce for that. Yeah. And you would install that, and instantly you've got a shop on your website that easily. You don't need to redesign the whole thing. And next week you want to add a course, you can add a new plugin, you can have a course. And it enables you to your business to just grow with you and not be having to change platforms and perhaps lose SEO that you've built up. If you move to a different platform, you've got to be careful with all your links, and the way that everything works could be different. So that is, I know it might sound worrying that you've got to update your plugins, but if you do it regularly,
you pay somebody else to do it for you.
Or you pay someone else to do it. If you're not comfortable to do it, that's fine. But yeah, you should be really updating your plugins at least once a month. If you've got a WordPress website, you should log in with your admin user. So if you've got a WordPress website and you don't have an admin user, you need to speak to your developer and get, or your host, and get one added, because it's so important that you can see everything. And even if you are paying someone to do your updates for you, like you, Rona, you've still got a full admin access, so that you can still see if I'm updating. If you went in there and it said 20 updates, you'd be like, wait a minute, what is Kelly doing over there? So it's important that you have that as everyone has that as a website owner, for visibility, and also just in case, God forbid your developer disappears tomorrow, you need that login so that you can give it to someone else to help you with your website.
So some users, so say for example, I've got a website, then when the developer gives me my username and password, they can then decide whether or not I've got admin rights or not. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, yeah. So if you were paying someone to maintain your website, and then they only give you enough rights to say create a blog post, add your podcast, but they don't give you full admin, you wouldn't be able to see that I wasn't doing a good job.
Okay. Okay.
So that's important that you have that access. And also just because at the end of the day, even if you never plan on using it, it's just like the like for your car, you've got your spare car key. Think of it like that. You wouldn't just have one car key, you'd be getting worried, wouldn't you? What if I lose this
Yeah.
car key? Well, it's the same thing. You just want to make sure that whoever's looking after your website, and even if you think they're amazing, have your own admin username and password so that you've got it there in case of an emergency, in case that person just disappears tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
along with that, users. So have a look at the users on your database. So this is in the back end of your website. So this could be Wix, Squarespace, any platform that you've got, you can add users to your website. In fact, anywhere, anywhere you've got username and passwords, this is useful. So when hackers try to attack something, trying to guess your password, they're going to use certain words to check. So they're going to use admin. So if you logging into your website with admin or Rona admin or Flower owner admin, they're going to have half of your password, your username password combination. So that makes it so much easier for them to crack that and get into your website. Or into your Google Mail or into anywhere. So it's so important when you're choosing usernames to choose things that are random numbers, just like you do with passwords. And along that vein, having a secure password. So if you have Apple 123, for example, that's one of the first words in the alphabet. So a bot can script. They go so fast. They're like checking like thousands of words a second. And just for brute force attacking your website. So it's good to make sure that they can't get in easily. Like Apple 123 username admin, they'll be in like a second. So a
How
good
do you change your admin username?
so admin username is a bit more tricky.
Okay.
But it is possible. But what you can do is create a new admin user and transfer your posts and things over to that one. But it's good if you've got something, say you've got a user called user or something else like just trying to think of some other of the key ones. There's
Subscriber is one.
editor, subscriber,
Editor,
all
yeah.
these words, that you need to make sure that it's just random, basically. And then with your password, again, random, use special characters like exclamation marks, 1, 2, 3. And a good tip for this, well, you could use a password manager system like LastPass, which is awesome. And then you can just save all your passwords to it, and you never need to worry about what your username and password is because it just fills it in for you.
It saves it in your browser.
Yes, yeah. So so it's an app on your phone. It's an app on your phone or on your computer. There's lots of different password managers out there, but I really like LastPass.
I do.
It securely stores all of your usernames and passwords. So then when you go to any website, so if you go to like Gmail or if you go to Zoom or anything like that, when you load it up, it automatically puts it in there for you. So you don't ever have to look it up. But it's also good because you can store notes in there. So if you had like two-factor authentication on all things, you've probably seen that you can have these backup passwords. So you could like put those in there in a note. You could put like your NHS number, your driving license, all things like that you don't just want hanging around, a picture of your driving license hanging around on your computer. Anyway, I digress. But
no, but LastPass is great,
awesome.
really great.
Or just look up a password safe. Basically, that's what that is. But that enables you to have random things and not worry about it. If you don't want to do that and you want to use a password that you can remember, then choose a random sentence. So, like, Rona loves purple is probably a bit short, but loves purple and has curly hair. Like
Wow.
exclamation mark 1, 2, 3, 4. Change all the A's for 4s. Just little things like that. So that's a great one for like when you're loading up LastPass, because you have to have a password there that you've got to remember. So you don't want it to be X capital 5 capital Z 3 2 exclamation mark 297. You're never going to remember that. Whereas a phrase, a long phrase that you are going to remember, and especially something random, so not like I was born on the 16th of June, you know, someone who was trying to get onto you, anything could use that. Could think of that quite easily. So be like just something random, like in your office, you know, I have a picture of a melon on the wall or whatever. So, and then in your clue, you can put in my office picture, you know, and then you're like, oh yes, that's what that is. So it's like the maiden name thing of old, but much more secure.
Yeah. So check out check you've got your admin and check the other users who are actually on your website. What's the next thing you
Make
should
sure that
do?
you delete any that shouldn't be there. So, you know, you could have users on there that left your company 2 years ago and they've still got access technically. And or old developers, you need to just get rid of anything like that. And the next one is to invest in secure hosting. So it's very tempting, I know, when you start out to choose a hosting that's like £2 a month or something, which is great until you get hacked. And then you're like, oh, you know, or your website's really slow. And you think, oh, okay. So, but invest in good quality hosting, and then it will be secure. And the other thing that you can do if you've got WordPress is install a security plugin. So something like WordFence. So you just go to your plugins, search for WordFence, install it, and instantly your website will be more secure. And then what that will do is email you if there are any vulnerabilities. So if one of your plugins has got something in that could make your website vulnerable, you'll get an email saying, Rona, you need to update WooCommerce. And then that'll just remind you, oh gosh, I should go in and update my plugins.
That's WordFence, you said?
WordFence, yeah.
Okay.
But if you've got a really good host, for example, me, or like Flywheel or somewhere like that, a secure managed host, then you won't need WordFence because they'll be doing that for you. But if you're not sure, it's a good thing to install to just so you, and also you can just run a scan just like you do on your laptop. You know, you do a virus check. It's just the same. So it scans your website, does a virus check for you, fixes anything it finds, or tells you how to fix it, and just makes you feel better. I think all of this is about peace of mind. There's so many people that I know, that especially women, who are just like, love the front end, like blinkers on about the back end. I'm not going to, but
That's
so
me.
easy, especially if you do it regularly. And once you've done it once, you sort of get into the swing of it. And I do have a YouTube video actually, which I'll give you a link to, Rona, so you can pop it in the show notes, which is all about how to update your WordPress website. So it just takes through step by step. And the final one is improve the speed of your website. So again, what I was saying about SEO before, search engines, they don't like slow websites. So if I've got a choice of coming to your website or someone else's, and their website is faster and you've both got similar keywords, I'm going to rank them higher than you.
Wow. So Google can work that out, how fast a website is?
Yes, definitely. Yes. Because what happens?
Goodness.
So it all feeds into other things. So you'll know, you know, if you go on a website that's taking ages to load, you've found your Google search, and you've got a list of websites to choose from, and you choose the first one, and then you're like, come on, like, why is that not loaded? And then you just click back, don't you? And go to the next one. You don't like sit and hang around for it to load. No. You're like, or even if you wait for the homepage to load and then you click the next page and you're waiting. You're like, oh, so annoying. So there's this tool that you can use to check your website. It's called GTmetrix.
GTmetrix.
Yeah, again, I'll put the link in the show notes. But yeah, so it's you can just literally copy and paste your URL in there. So that's the address of your website. And it will do, select the country you want to check from. So if you're based in London, you know, England, select London, England. And it runs a scan and basically lets you know how your website's performing. It gives you a grade from A to F on how good you are.
Wow.
So yeah, but some, if you're paying someone to do your updates, you're paying someone to maintain your website, that is something they should be checking out for you, making sure that your speed remains the same. Because also, even if you do all the work today and it's perfect and you've got an A, in 6 months' time, it might be an F for some reason. So you need to work out what's happened. Suddenly you're paying a different subcontractor to upload your images, for example, and they're uploading them huge. If you've not got your eye on this stuff, you won't know.
Yeah.
So until you think, oh, it is slow, but this will tell you. Yeah. So that's super important.
So a website is basically like a growing entity that has changes just like us humans in a way, in that it's always got to be cared for.
Yeah, totally. 'Cause so many people just leave their websites. They think, oh, it's done. Forget about that till the next time. But if you keep on top of it, and you should be able to be proactive with it. You think, oh, you just have an idea today for a promotion you want to do. You should be able to just go in there and set that up yourself. That's the way I like my users to be. I design people's websites, but I don't want them to be calling me up to change an image on the home screen. Obviously, I'll do that if you wanted me to, but it's much more economical for you to know how to do it yourself. So that's what I'm all about, like teaching people how to do it. So that you've got total control of your own website. I think that's really important. And having things like your username, being in control of your admin, knowing how to update everything. And even if someone else is doing it, just checking up on them, making sure it's okay. That will just give you that peace of mind.
Yeah.
And yeah, just make your website a tool for your business. Because that's, to be fair, I mean, whatever, people put so much effort into social media, into the Instagram, into Facebook, but then you've got people to like, oh yeah, I really like Rona, I want to get to her website, and they click through and it's not what they're expecting. Yeah, it's not good. It's
No.
you need to be keeping on top of your website and making sure it is the number one selling tool for your business, because at the end of the day it is.
So, Kelly, if I've been inspired to do some spring cleaning on my website, what would I do next?
Okay, so the first thing you should do is download my checklist. So it's everything that I've talked about today in a little bit more detail. And it'll just allow you to go through. And within that, I've got weekly tasks, so things you should be doing every week to your website. Ideally, I appreciate everyone's busy, but maybe you do it every 2 weeks, but it's just like the regular tasks you should be doing. Then I've got the monthly tasks, so things you do every month. And then the ad hoc ones. So things like if you've got a vulnerability on your website, that's going to be something you need to address straight away. So there'll be a list of those for you to just go through, and you can just tick it off each update period.
Wow. So I'll put a link to that below, the video, and also on the audio for this podcast. Now, I think I've been very transparent in that you host my websites and you do everything for me with regard to the back end and updating everything, because that isn't my forte, and I know that you will do it incredibly effortlessly and professionally. I understand that you've got some plans for an exciting project moving forward as well as doing all of this, haven't you?
Yes. So first of all, I've got a workshop coming up. So that will, this is which is called Spring Clean Your Website with me. So if you are nervous about doing it yourself, then you can come and do that. And I'd like to offer one of your listeners a free spot on that.
Thank you.
So yes, there'll be a note before. So you can basically, if you've got a WordPress website and you want to update it and you're just a bit nervous, then you can basically update it live with me during the workshop. So I'll go through, tell you what to do step by step, and then you can come into a breakout room and I'll be available for any questions to chat. But my business. So I was doing just training, but now I'm doing hosting and maintenance, which is something that I've always offered for my web
Mm.
development clients. So whenever I did anyone's websites, I've always offered that as part of it. But I'm now offering that more broadly, so I can help more people basically. So if someone did decide to go down and use my hosting and maintenance packages, then I could do all the updates. I'd just take control of it and get it all updated, do it all on a staging site, and then it's not affecting the live site, and then set it live later on. So if you're worried about your hosting not being secure or anything like that, then obviously that would all be solved with me. And also, so I'm just launched my new business, which is called Opal and Onyx. Um,
Lovely.
and I'm also going to be doing templates as well. So it's an extension of the course that I was doing before. So I teach people how to implement the template into their own website step by step, so you can give your website a complete overhaul.
For the untechnical amongst us, including me, say I've just heard what you said, and you said if you've got a WordPress website, it's just WordPress only, isn't it?
It is WordPress only, yeah.
Yeah. So
But
if
the
you've got a WordPress website, you're creating templates. So what does that mean exactly?
So, when we were talking before about the front end of a website, so
Mm.
you go to a website and you see the pretty pages and the contact form and things like that. So I'll be creating a template that you can put onto your website. Well, actually, I would do all that for you. So if you bought a template, it would all be set up on the hosting. It would all be the template would be installed. And then you can go in there and just put your own text in. So I've done that for you, Rona,
Okay.
before, haven't I?
Mm.
So like it means that your website's been tested, it's going to convert well, and you're not starting from a blank sheet of paper. Because I think sometimes when you're like, well, what do I put on my homepage? Whereas if you've got a box that says there's a picture of someone and there's a bit of text next to it, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can put my picture there and I can say that I am a photographer who specializes in newborn photography. It's the prompts, which makes it so much easier if you're creating a new website.
Okay. Right. So the templates that are coming out, who are they going to be suitable for? What kind of businesses? Do you know that yet?
Yeah, definitely. So they're all for creative businesses. So everything I do is very design led. You know that, Rona. I'm so fussy when it comes to design. So it's perfect for people who are also really conscious about how their business is portrayed. And every template has different brand feels. So for different types of businesses, so you can see how it would look on 4 different types of business, which makes it really easy for you to choose. And also, if you love it as it is, you could just literally take the branding, use the fonts, and with every template, I'd give like a brand guideline. So if you love it, you can just use that for your own business, and then say take that forward for your Instagram or for your when you're creating your proposals. You'd be okay. So my header font is this. So it just
Okay.
simplifies everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Very exciting. So it sounds like you've got a busy year ahead, Kelly.
Yes, I definitely have. Already been
So, what did
busy.
you say?
It's already been busy. Been peddling behind the scenes.
So, we've looked at sprinkling your website, we've looked at inside and outside. What are your 3 tips, please, Kelly?
So the first one is, I know I've been harping on about this the whole podcast, but make sure you update your website regularly. So even if it's just the homepage, because apart from anything else, so when I say update, I just mean the front end, because you don't want people to come, a repeat visitor to come back and be like, oh, they've still got the Valentine's Day promotion up. It's March. That doesn't send a good message to your clients. So yeah, just simple things, changing images, things like that. Just make sure it's regularly. What's the word? Not update. It is updated, isn't it? But yeah,
Yeah, and Google will like that as well, won't it?
exactly. Yeah, Google again. All search engines love a frequently updated site. So doing things like adding blog posts, that's an update. You're updating your
Mm.
website. You're adding a new page to your website, a new post. So that's why blogging is so great. Yeah. So every little update, and if Google's got a choice, of your website that was updated yesterday, or someone else's website hasn't been updated for 2 years, they're going to go for you. You're going to get slowly higher. And that's why people see that they get a developer, they do all this work and they get to the top. And then if they don't continue with that work, they slowly go down and down the search engine pages. And that is because they're not keeping their website updated.
Okay.
The second thing is just make sure your branding matches your website. So if your business has changed and your brand has changed and you're using a different font now on Instagram and Facebook and on your proposals, and then someone goes to check out your website and they're like, oh, this looks nothing like the proposal I've just received. Make sure that you've carried through that branding message through to your website.
Yeah, that's so important. Yeah, I'm very really conscious of that now. I think it's all about looking at all the touch points that a potential client can have with your business, whether that's in person or online, and thinking, do they all look like they come from the same company?
Yes, definitely. Because if you've sold them on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, and then they get to your website and it doesn't look the same, then they're going to be like, oh, well, I was sure, but now I might try someone else. I'm just going to go and check out the other person that I saw, so it just puts them off a bit. And also, if you're not keeping your own website updated, like what kind of message is that sending to your clients?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, is she scatty? Is she like not organized? So it's things like that. You want to present a professional front, having the forms on your website, all the things that I mentioned in the last podcast. It's so important because they're all things that can make you look more professional. I actually have a YouTube video that I'll send you the link to, Rona, that is how to make my website look more professional, because it's just so important.
Yeah. Talking of professional websites, since our last interview, you have been incredibly busy with two very high profile people in the floristry industry and creating their websites for them. Do you want to share?
Yeah, so last year, sorry, so about this time last year, I launched the new David Austin website. So it's the Wedding Flowers branch. And I did a rebrand for them to change their colors, and then also totally redid their website, which was so exciting. And that was just like a dream job. So it's like looking at David Austin roses all day for months. It's absolutely amazing. This is why I go do like motorbike mechanics and things. The imagery is not quite as exciting. And the other one was Sarah Statham's website from Simply by Arrangement. So again, I tweaked her branding because I got the branding and I was like, oh, it's not quite right. So we tweaked the colors. In her brief, she wanted to appeal to a different market. So, and again, it was the same thing, her focus now was the workshop. So it's just all about like changing the focus of the website and creating something that was visually beautiful to and good enough for her imagery. I mean, wow, her images are just amazing. Again, another dream project.
Yeah, and I just remembered also you have been working with Tallulah Rose Flower School, haven't you?
Yes. So I've helped her launch lots of courses in the past few years. Yeah, and we're just working together now on her newsletter revamp. So yeah, very exciting. Yeah, I do love working with creative businesses.
Yeah, I just remembered that. I was like, oh my goodness, so much has happened in the last 12
No,
months.
and talking about updating, this is stuff that I haven't got on my website, Mine would be like, God, you have to write a blog post about this, Kelly. I couldn't blame
Maybe
my
by the time this goes out, you'll have a chance to do something about
Yes,
it.
yeah, have a case study section. So
What's your third tip, Kelly?
okay, so my third tip is to just make sure that you look after the back end of your website too. And as I said before, even if you are paying someone else to do it, make sure you've got an admin user so you can just go in and just check periodically and make sure there isn't any numbers next to the update box. It's really simple. When you go in there, you say, oh yeah, there's little 3. That means you've got 3 updates to do. Now, updates happen quite frequently with WordPress. So, like even I do my updates for my clients every week. But sometimes I'll like log in on a Monday and I've just done it on the Thursday and like there's 7 updates. So,
Wow.
yeah, it just depends on what's happened. If there's like a new big version of WordPress, then a lot of plugins would update. So yeah, but it's just making sure that there's not like WordPress isn't out of date and there's 20 plugin updates, and and just keeping an eye on it and making sure there's no error messages like the one that I said to you about the about
Instagram.
Instagram. I logged into your website to do your updates, and then I saw that message, so that's how I was able to let you know about that, even if I hadn't noticed it when I did my checks. So what I do when I do an update, so you should do this too if you're updating your own website, is check each page after you've done it. So after you've done your updates, just go through your website and just have a cursory glance at every page, make sure everything looks okay, make sure everything's still there. If you've updated your form plugin, you go to your contact page and the form is gone. It says fill in your details below and there's no form. So it's just super important to keep everything
up to
updated
date
in the back end, and just having the visibility as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kelly.
No worries.
The hour has flown by, and you shared so much. So where can people find you online, Kelly?
So obviously you can find me on my website, which is at Opal and Onyx, but I'll put the full link, I'll send you the full link, Rona, and obviously to Instagram and to YouTube. So if you like YouTube, then you should go over and check out my channel, because I share so much free stuff on there. At the minute I'm in the middle of a sprinkling your website mini series. So I've got 4 videos about, like, one's about updating, one's about backing up, security, and then the next series that I'm going to do is all about branding. So if your brand needs an overhaul, then you might want to go over and subscribe and watch out for those videos.
And have you got a newsletter as well?
I do have a newsletter, yep. So you can sign up to that. I'll send you the link to that as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time today, Kelly. And good luck with Opal and Onyx.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome, as ever. And it'll be interesting to see whether this reaches the top 3 again in a year's time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Kelly. It was lovely to catch up with her and hear all her incredible advice on what to do about spring cleaning your website this year and every year come to that. Do head over to her website and also check her out on Instagram and YouTube too.